Dan, a nerdy-looking young man, is at a hospital waiting for news about his sick mother. She was admitted to the ICU 3 days before for a heart condition, and now she is intubated. The doctor told Dan to prepare himself because she may not make it out alive. For that reason, Dan has to wait at the hospital for any news. To kill time, he brought his notebook so that he can write his script, but he's struggling. He has been staring at his open document for days now, looking for something good to continue his script, but he's stuck. He tries to think about ways of leaving his writer's block. And just as he has a good idea, one of the hospital's nurses asks him to buy medication for his mother. She instructs him to bring the bill to the cashier, pay for it, then go to the pharmacy to get the medicine. He does as she asks. After all, it's his beloved mother that needs it. He walks towards the cashier as if the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He thinks about his mom, how she is old and her health isn't very good, and he only wants her to know that he isn't going to give up writing. Unfortunately, it's not easy being a writer. As soon as he comes back to give the medicine to the nurse, he forgets his genius idea from before. It's frustrating for Dan. Once again, he tries to come up with ideas that will help him move on from his writer's block, but he's interrupted again. This time by a loud noise a girl is making as she drags chairs to the waiting room so she can sit. Her name is Bella. Dan watches as she charges her phone and takes out a bag of fruits from her purse. He's shocked that she's going to eat at a hospital. Bella turns to him and he snaps his head forward, so she doesn't notice that he had been staring. Sadly for Dan, he has forgotten his idea again. He keeps trying to come up with ideas, but he's always interrupted. His phone rings, and he stares at it pondering whether he should pick up or not. A nurse appears and tells him that no loud sounds are allowed, so he leaves before answering it. Bella stares at him and finds the way that he left in a hurry funny. Dan finally picks up his phone and it's his employer asking when his script is going to be ready. He's having difficulties because it's a love story and usually he doesn't write this kind of script. Still, he promises his script is going to be ready in time. This puts even more pressure on him. He has no inspiration while waiting to know if his mother is going to make it or not. The hospital isn't the place to think about love stories with happy endings. He goes back to the waiting room and sees Bella praying. He wonders if she's religious and if praying would actually help or not. With no time to waste, he goes back to his writing. He writes a couple of sentences before realizing he's repeating Bella's chant and writing it down. He looks at her and chuckles, leaving Bella confused. Then, he drinks water and starts hiccuping, which is embarrassing. To help him out, Bella scares Dan so his hiccups stop. After telling him a scare always works, she abruptly leaves the waiting room before the nurse comes and lectures her for the noise. In the following scene, Dan and Bella are having lunch together at the hospital's cafeteria. Bella is very talkative and she keeps asking Dan questions about his script. She changes questions so quickly that he doesn't have the opportunity to answer all of them. He just stares at her with his mouth open, and when she asks him if she can read his script, he can't resist her cute face. Bella starts reading Dan's script, but after a couple of minutes, she gives up. She asks him to tell her the ending because she's too lazy to read it all. Dan was looking forward to her opinion on the script. Maybe it would help him with his writer's block. Instead, Bella insists he tells her the ending, and Dan explains that his script has 4 different storylines to it, with many different characters, and she would have to read it all to understand the characters and what happens at the end. Bella doesn't understand what he means by that, and Dan gives up explaining. He says he needs to keep writing. Bella asks him not to leave because she's going to read the script, and asks for his notebook's password. He says it's "I love you," and she thinks it's really sweet he has a romantic password. It shows that he's a romantic at heart, even if he has difficulties writing about love. Bella starts reading his script, then. One of the stories is about Ginny and Kevin. Ginny is a flight attendant who has just arrived from one of her work trips. She's taking some food for her sick friend when suddenly an ambulance stops in front of her friend's building. They take Ginny's friend and put her in the ambulance before trying to do the same with Ginny. She runs from the paramedics and even loses a shoe in the process. The problem is that Ginny's friend has a contagious disease. Sadly, Ginny catches it and has to stay in quarantine in her apartment. She's not very sick, but it can still endanger other people's lives. While she's doing chores in her apartment, a drone appears right outside her balcony holding a cup of instant ramen. She gets scared it's a pervert watching her and smacks the drone with a racket, breaking it. The drone belongs to her neighbor, Kevin. Kevin is a young programmer who loves gambling with his friend. After losing a bet, his friend decides to challenge him for another bet. Kevin needs to stay at home for 2 weeks, and he can't go anywhere. Kevin can't let it slide, so he accepts. 3 days later, he had already done everything there was to do at home. He plays games, cleans up, reads, meditates, and plays the electric guitar. For a spirited person, he gets bored very easily. There's nothing else to do at home, so he decides to bring himself food using a drone. At first, he's very excited with his genius idea of using a drone to deliver food. But then he loses control of the drone and it gets smacked to pieces by his neighbor, Ginny. He's mad that she broke his drone and complains to his friend. At the same time, Ginny also complains and says she's not going to pay for the drone, that it wasn't her fault she broke it. Kevin's friend thinks Ginny is cute, and he wants to change his bet with Kevin. If he manages to win Ginny over in 14 days, he wins. At first, Kevin says no, but then his friend improves the winnings. He's going to give Kevin 2 crates of beers and $600. Kevin hesitates, but his friend keeps pushing him to accept, so in the end he does. What he doesn't know is that Ginny is on a call with her ex, T. He keeps calling her even after he cheated on her with 4 other women. While Ginny is talking to her friend about relationships on the phone, Kevin uses his drone again, this time to bring something to Ginny. She accepts the food, and as she's eating, she finds a note saying that he's sorry with his social media account so she can contact him. Back to Dan and Bella, he asks if she were Ginny, she would add Kevin. Bella says she would, but first she would try to find out what he has under his sleeve. Then, if they didn't get along, she'd just block him. For her, if she wanted to forget her ex, which is Ginny's case, maybe Kevin could help. Dan thinks it's too easy to solve the problem, and Bella answers that it's the internet era, that her sister married a man she met on Tinder, then they got divorced a month later. If it's meant to be, it will work out. If it isn't, then it'll end and that's it. Back to Kevin and Ginny, they have been talking on the phone for 3 days straight. Kevin is confident he'll be able to win Ginny over, because he's that good. Over the days, he keeps sending her food over the drone. They play games together and talk without pause. They even have dinner together, though they each stay at their own building. Kevin invites her to go out, but since they are in the middle of the pandemic, they can't be close to each other. So his solution is to bring 2 water balls. It's all very romantic, and they have amazing chemistry. The problem is that Kevin starts to feel bad about the bet. He's essentially playing with Ginny's feelings, which is wrong, especially after he gets to know her better. Because of his heavy conscience, he tells his friend he doesn't want to do that anymore. He's worried that she's going to find out the truth. To make things worse, Kevin has a girlfriend that was out of town, but she's coming back. His friend realizes Kevin is falling for Ginny. Kevin doesn't know what to do. He needs to figure out fast if he's going to stay with his girlfriend, or break up with her to stay with Ginny, because his girlfriend is going to his place. What none of them know is that Kevin's girlfriend is Ginny's best friend, and only a couple of days ago she had been complaining about Kevin to Ginny, though she didn't know who he was. Kevin goes to Ginny's building to try and find her, but as he knocks on an apartment door, the girl who answers it is not Ginny. On the other hand, his girlfriend is also in the building, because she wants to bring Ginny some food. Kevin doesn't give up and keeps looking for Ginny's apartment. He finally finds it, and when Ginny opens the door, surprised, he has no idea his girlfriend is there. Ginny asks Kevin to come in, so they can talk, and Kevin finally confesses that he made a bet with his friend. He says that he's sorry, but that he wants to continue being her friend. He also confesses he has a girlfriend. Ginny is in shock. She cannot believe that after her ex, she was played again. Just then, Kevin's girlfriend steps out of the bathroom and is really surprised he's there. She has no idea what just happened. It's absolutely shocking for the two of them, but especially for Ginny. She gets so angry that she slaps him on the face. That's the end of Kevin and Ginny's story. Bella can't believe Dan ended the story like that. Dan confesses that he doesn't like happy endings. He prefers realistic endings. After all, it's not possible to always have happy endings. Sometimes, life takes a tragic turn. A day later, Dan informs his boss he's sending the script. Bella appears again, surprising Dan, and asks to continue reading the script. Dan accepts, and they sit together so she can go to the next story, which is called Someone Next Door. Terry's a troublemaker schoolboy who hates his classmate Chloe, the Ice Queen, because he feels like they are from different worlds. He's so mad at her that when he sees her poster plastered on the school wall as Student of the Year, he kicks a ball at it, but misses and causes an accident. He is sent to the principal's office and she lectures him for his mistake. He loses 50 points from his behavior score, which upsets him a lot. The principal is also his mother, and she tells him he embarrasses her every day. Later that day, he's at home and goes to a window to smoke a cigarette. There he sees his neighbor changing clothes, and his heart beats really fast. Before she takes her shirt off, though, he coughs and gets her attention. It's Chloe, and she closes her curtains after flipping him off. Next day at school, he tells his friends that he almost saw her without her top. While his friends are all excited and thinking it must have been a magical experience, Terry's not impressed. His dislike for Chloe is bigger than his wish to see a girl naked. At least that's what he tells himself, but he's always watching her. His problem with her is because his mother uses Chloe as an example to Terry, since she's an honor student and so smart, while Terry always fails subjects. For that reason, he wishes she wouldn't be his neighbor. Moving on, Terry's at his house playing the guitar and watching Chloe's bedroom. His mom arrives and tells him she's not there. She's moved to China to study. Terry's wish has come true, but he's not happy about it. He just doesn't feel right when she's not around. One day, his teacher comes up to his house and gives him a note. On the note, there's an ID that Terry needs to add to find out who the person is. Surprisingly, it's Chloe. When Terry contacts her, she tells him she needs some help. She asks him if he can visit her grandma sometimes, so that she won't feel lonely at home. Terry accepts, and Chloe sends him a list with all the things her grandma enjoys. Chloe's grandma has Alzheimer's, so she doesn't even remember who he is. Still, she lets him come in and he makes her some food. They watch a horror movie together, which scares Terry to death. Every day, Terry visits Grandma and helps her with whatever she needs, whether it is going to the hospital or just making her company. He and Chloe also start talking more, and she's really happy that Terry agreed to help her out. As they get to know each other, Terry realizes that Chloe isn't an ice queen like he believed. She is kind and has a big heart. It's not hard for him to fall for her more each time they talk. He asks his mother for advice, and she tells him that real love is the small things the couple does for each other every day. She also tells the story of how she fell in love with his father, and that at the beginning, she hated him. That gives Terry hope of winning Chloe over. Later that day, Chloe calls him, but she isn't very happy. Because of the lockdown, she can't go out, and she's feeling lonely staying in her room all the time. She wants to go back home, but she isn't sure she will be able to. When she asks if Terry can continue to look after her grandma, he tells her that she should come do it herself. Chloe smiles and says that it's strange that they have been neighbors for years and yet they had never talked like that before. Chloe asks Terry if she could ask him something, but before she can say anything, her connection freezes. Both Terry and Chloe are upset that they can't continue their conversation. In the end, we see that Chloe has been watching Terry as much as he has been watching her. She even took pictures of him, and her screen picture is one of those pictures. Back to Dan and Bella, once again she's upset at the way he ended the story. It seemed as if it didn't provide closure. She has many questions about the relationship between Chloe and Terry, but for Dan, it's better when the endings are open, so the spectators can imagine what happened after the movie ends. For Bella, though, Dan's movie is going to flop. He asks her to stop reading if she's only going to criticize it, but she wants to keep reading. The next story is called Someone You Hate. Oliver works as a delivery man for a delivery company, and he uses his motorcycle for that. Every other day he meets another delivery person that works for a different company, and they have the habit of racing each other. Oliver has never seen the person's face, but he hates them because he has lost the race twice. They are ready to race again, and Oliver is confident he'll beat them that day. When the traffic lights turn green, they speed up. Oliver takes the lead, but because of his lack of attention, he ends up bumping into a trash can and falling in a trash truck. The other rider even stops to mock him, which makes Oliver angrier. When he gets home, his little sister tells him their father's going to be mad about the damage in the motorcycle, and Oliver has to pay her so she keeps it a secret. Next day, they go visit their father in a hospital. He had been in a bad accident and now he's in a coma. Oliver has to take care of his little sister and the bills. His job as a delivery man, though, doesn't pay enough, so he resorts to illegal races. He used to race a lot before he got his job as a delivery man, but now he needs the money. He gives his gold necklace as payment, but before the race can start, the police appear and everyone runs away. Oliver tries to escape, but his motorcycle breaks in the middle of the street. He's desperate that he's going to be arrested. Lucky for him, the mysterious driver that always races him appears and saves him. When they stop, Oliver climbs down the motorcycle and waits for the driver to show his face so he can thank them. When they take off their helmet, Oliver cannot believe his eyes. The driver he's been racing almost every day is a pretty girl about his age. When he thanks her, she tells him it was nothing, that she doesn't want him to get in trouble because she enjoys their races. Then, they go to a convenience store and she buys him some food. As they are eating, the girl suddenly turns to Oliver and tells him he's going to die the next day. He jokes and asks if she's a fortune teller, and she replies she comes from the future. They start laughing, but she abruptly stops and says that she's telling the truth. If he goes racing the next day, he's going to die. Oliver is scared that she's being so serious about it. At the same time, he's skeptical. She gives him her cup noodles and leaves after saying she has come a long way just to see him. Later, he goes back home and sees his sister sleeping in the garage. That night he couldn't sleep. All he thinks about is what she said to him, and also about all the debts his family has. He's worried that she's right, but at the same time he needs the money from the race. With no other viable option, Oliver goes racing. Before he speeds up, he remembers what the mystery girl said to him and he's stuck. He turns around and goes to the hospital. As he is waiting for the elevator, he's surprised when the girl appears again. This time, she has the box where all the money from the race is. She gives it to him, all the money, the necklaces, everything. Oliver is speechless. He really needed the money to pay the bills and raise his sister. When the girl is ready to leave again, he asks what her name is. She calls him an idiot, and then shows him a rock tattoo she has on her neck. It's the same rocket Oliver's sister has. Oliver can't believe it's his sister coming from the future. Once more, the story abruptly ends. Bella asks Dan if he's into sci-fi. He replies that he is. Bella says that she doesn't know if it's good or not for the script, but that if someone from the future told her what is going to happen to her, it would be nice. Dan asks what if it was bad news, and Bella answers that at least she would know what to expect, whether to have hope or not. Dan asks her what she does in the hospital, and Bella answers she's there for her boyfriend. Dan's last story is called Some Secret Admirer. Sam is a very determined guy who works at a convenience store. He always wants to give his best in everything, whether it is in organizing the store perfectly or knowing all the customers' names. He doesn't like to get drunk, and he likes working at the night shift because he gets to see his crush, Jane. She's a cute girl working as a dentist assistant, and she always stops by the store during her shifts. Jane is Sam's kryptonite. He works hard in everything he does in his life, but he can't manage to tell her that he likes her. His friend mocks him that while he has a crush on her, she has a crush on her boss because she always asks what food she should take him. They are curious about the dentist's appearance and they decide to go there to see him. Sam knows everything about the clinic and Jane's schedule. When the dentist appears, they think he's ugly. Sam's more handsome than the doctor, but at the same time, the dentist is a doctor and Sam works in a convenience store. Jane appears next to them and asks what they are doing there, which almost gives Sam a heart attack. She asks if they need anything with the dentist, and Sam's friend lies telling her that he has a toothache. Sam's led to the dentist's office, where the dentist proceeds to clean his teeth of cavities. The problem is that Sam is afraid of needles, so he freaks out when the dentist tries to give him anesthesia. The dentist insists and Sam kicks him away, making a huge mess. Next, Dan is with Bella again and he asks how the script is going. She tells him she likes that Sam's determined, and that Dan should play with Sam's determination a bit more. While they are discussing the script, a nurse appears. Bella's boyfriend's doctor wants to talk to her about his condition. She follows the nurse, leaving Dan staring at her. He realizes that he wants to keep talking to her, but after that day, he doesn't see her again for a long time. Days later, when he returns to the hospital, Dan sees Bella singing on the hospital stage. He's really happy to see her again after so long with no news. Bella's dancing and singing, and she seems to be having fun. After the show, Dan tells Bella that he thought her boyfriend had been released, but Bella answers that she had just gone around temples praying for him. She says that she had to pack her boyfriend's things because the doctor said he didn't have much time left. Dan doesn't know what to say to her, so he stays quiet. Bella tells him she's okay and asks to read the rest of the script. Moving on, Sam's studying orthodontics. He wants to try to be a dentist. His friends discourage him, saying that by the time he finishes his studies, Jane would bring her children for him to check. Sam's determined, he's not going to give up. One day, Jane goes to the store and tells Sam that her boss knows that she leaves snacks for him, and that he invited her to have dinner at his house. Jane is really happy, so Sam pretends to be happy for her, even though his heart is breaking. His friend suggests that he finds another crush, so Sam throws the orthodontics book he was reading away. Next day, his friend comes to work with a swollen face. He had fought with some guys the night before. Jane comes into the store, but she's not her usual bubbly self. She looks distraught, so Sam goes after her. She tells him that she found out the dentist has a girlfriend, and that he only slept with her the day she went to his house. Jane feels stupid because she was played. She also saw the dentist throw away all the snacks she bought for him. Sam doesn't know what to say to her, so he walks away. He's pissed. He goes after the dentist and beats him to a pulp. Sadly, Jane never comes back when she finds out what he did. She resigned and moved to another city. It seems that she had a child with the dentist, but he never took on the baby. Sam also resigned from his job at the convenience store to study and become a dentist. Years later, when Jane is at a clinic with her son, the doctor appointed to her child is Sam. They are really surprised to see each other after so long. Finally, a happy ending to one of Dan's stories. He took Bella's advice to play with Sam's determination, and in the end he became a dentist. Bella replies that she likes that ending, and she's happy that Dan can write a happy ending. Dan tells her that there is a reason for why he can't write happy endings, and they stare at each other for a long time. Before Dan can finally confess to Bella, a nurse tells him his mother is awake. He's shocked, but very excited that his mother didn't die. She's recovering, and won't even need the ventilator anymore. Dan is grateful and happy. When he returns to the waiting room, Bella's not there anymore, but she left him a message. She tells him she's happy his mother is recovering, and that it's possible to have a happy ending in real life too. She says she is going to watch his movie when it comes out. Unfortunately, Bella doesn't receive good news about her boyfriend. He passed away the same day Dan's mother woke up. She never appeared in the hospital again. Dan's always thinking about her, though. He's in love with her, and he missed the opportunity to tell her. He hopes she's well, recovering from her own loss, and that she misses him too. Some time later, Dan's movie comes out. It's called Love Distancing. Dan is watching it in the cinema when his phone rings. He leaves the room, not knowing that Bella's right outside waiting to buy a ticket to watch it too. At first, they don't see each other. Dan's talking on the phone while Bella is buying the ticket. It's only when she turns around that their eyes clash. Dan can't believe he is seeing her again after all this time. It is at that moment, when they accidentally meet, that Dan realizes happy endings feel pretty good.